What's up, guys? So you've got yourself a new car, completely stock, and you're wanting to put a system in there, and you know about how much power they're going to be putting in. So let's say we're going for somewhere between 2 and 3,000 watts of total system power, meaning that includes your amplifiers for your subwoofer, for your speakers, all the things that you're going to amplify, that you're adding to the existing electrical system. So we're not counting the stereo's built-in amplifier. If you're going to use that to drive your front, rear, or whatever, that's perfectly normal. And we're not counting that because it's part of the existing electrical system. The car is designed to be able to handle that power. So we're only taking into consideration the electrical draw that you're going to be adding to the current system. So let's say you're putting a 2,000 watt sub amp on, or you're putting a 1,000 watt sub amp and 1,000 watts of 4-channel amplifier, or whatever the case may be. So if you're looking for something between 2 and 3,000 watts, you can think that would be pretty easy to install, pretty easy for your system to handle. Well, you're looking at between 2 and 300 amps of draw. Your car's electrical system is only designed to have like an excess of maybe 40 or 50 amps. So you're definitely going to be taxing your electrical system. So big time, you're going to be overtaxing it. So what are the upgrades you should make first? Say you're on an extreme budget and you're going to build this paycheck to paycheck. You've got a little bit of money on each paycheck that you can spend. You can't go dropping $2,000 or $3,000 on a complete electrical system upgrade. You just need the bits and pieces, and you want to put it together in such a way that it falls into your economic ability. Okay. The very first thing I would recommend doing on a system like this is there's going to be some contention, okay? Because a lot of people are going to say that you should do a big three. Well, let me explain why these questions are in place. The first thing I would do is get a supercapacitor, put it in the system. The supercapacitor is going to give you a reserve of power that's going to take the load off of your existing electrical system and keep it from having to burst charge. If you're trying to pull 200 amps out of a system that's designed to make 160 total, including what the car needs to run, it's just not going to be able to do that. And the supercapacitor is going to give you a buffer so that that system is not trying to produce that all at one time. It's going to be able to refill that capacitor. So it's going to help soften the blow on the rest of the electrical system. It's going to give you some reserve power for hits and may actually cripple you along and give you some playability, though at a reduced power output. And it's going to be the best bang for your buck starting out. And having that supercapacitor located back there by your primary energy draw is going to be better for that equipment as well. Now, you may say, well, why not do the big three first? Okay. Well, the big three is a good choice, but you have to remember your car's alternator is able to put out, say, 160 amps of power. And the wiring that it already has is capable of handling the power that that alternator is able to produce. So upgrading the wiring to make it stronger is not a bad thing. It's going to make it a little bit better, but it's not going to give you any immediate results like something like a supercapacitor would. So while I would definitely suggest doing a big three, I wouldn't put that in the top number one spot myself. Okay. You may say, what about an alternator? Well, an alternator would be a good choice, and ultimately you're going to probably want one. But at 2,000 watts, you know, and also you got a brand new car. It's quite an expense. And at 2,000 watts, you're on the edge of being able to support that. Without it, it's probably not the best top priority pick. It would be the last thing I would upgrade in this particular scenario. You say, what about adding more batteries? Okay, that works good too, and would not be a bad choice. However, the batteries have only a limited capability of releasing power quickly. So they work well for storage, but they can't give you that power very quickly. So they don't help to buffer that electrical system near as much as a supercapacitor would. And while adding another battery or upgrading your current battery would be good choices, I don't think bang for the buck, they're going to be as good of an upgrade as a supercap is going to be. The other bonus to a supercap is it's going to give you upgradability in the future. So that supercap is capable of handling voltages up to 16, 17 volts. So no matter where you go with that system in the future, that supercap can remain in that system and give you more and more benefits as you move along. Also, considering the cost of all these upgrades. A big three isn't that expensive, but like I said, it's not going to net you near as much gains. And so I don't think it's a top priority. Number one priority, not. And the batteries in a supercap are going to be, actually, if you get the B stock iOxus supercap, it's going to be less than a battery, maybe even half the price of a battery, depending on what battery you're getting. I would so much more recommend getting two iOxus supercaps as one AGM battery. And you say lithium. Well, lithium is all well and good, but remember, we're working with a stock electrical system. So it would need to be a chemistry that was okay at being charged at 13.5 volts. And we're probably talking about somebody who hasn't done a whole lot of car audio stuff. So they may or may not get that lithium installed in such a way that it would be as safe as it could be. And lithium is sketchy. So unless you're experienced with messing with it, it can get catastrophically bad. So I don't really recommend new people running lithium unless it's even if it is a prepackaged, ready-made setup, because it requires usually upgrades to the electrical system ahead of time. So it's not really ideal for this scenario. A supercapacitor is a super easy thing to install. It can handle any voltage charging, from way down there to up high. It's going to have a mild amount of storage and tons of ability to release power. It's going to be the best bang for your buck for your number one first upgrade. Now, when I say upgrade, I'm not talking about though. You're going to have to run your wiring for your amplifiers. You're going to have to run, some heavy wire, heavy enough to handle your 2,000 watts, which I would absolutely recommend running at least an alt gauge cable from front to rear. And I say front to rear, I mean from preferably the alternator's positive output back to your supercap, but stopping at the battery. So you'd run from your alternator's positive output to the battery, and then run from the battery back to the supercap, and from the supercap hot over to your stereo. And I would also recommend, right off the bat, running a ground cable from the alternator's bracket to the battery, and then back to the supercap, hooking it up there and running it to your stereo there, creating a good, solid positive and negative channel all the way to the back from the alternator with the battery and the supercap, then the amplifiers in that circuit. You're going to end up with less problems in the future, and that's going to set you up in the future for more equipment and better equipment and more power. Ultimately, I think it's the best choice. But that's a standard issue install. We're talking about the first upgrade. The first upgrade I would personally recommend is the ioxus supercap, Maxwell supercap, excess power, whoever you want to use, but a supercapacitor. That's what we're talking about. I think that is going to give you the most bang for your buck for your first setup, your very first upgrade. After that, I would probably want to. I would probably say, if you've got a fairly weak battery, I would say after that, adding a second battery to help power that supercap. Uh, if your battery is good, you got a good, big, healthy battery, then after the supercap, I would say alternator and a big three. Because once you added more charging capability, you definitely want to upgrade those charging paths. So that's my personal recommendation for anyone getting into this brand new stock system. Your first electrical upgrade, and you're on a budget. That's the path I would suggest taking for a fairly low powered system. Anyway, guys, if you found this helpful, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below, slap a thing on that like button, and leave comments. And something I don't ask for most of the time, share my videos. If you got friends that are getting into car stereo, doing the new things, share this video with them. Help them out, helps me out, helps the algorithm out. Everybody's happy. For now, guys, peace.